Hi, friends. Welcome. We'll just wait a few minutes to get everyone in, but thank you. My name is Lionel, and this is the first of our weekly lives that we will do in support of the Minding Our Business movement. Minding Our Business is a financial academy which we've started in order to empower faith based individuals on managing their financing and stewarding the resources that God has given them. I'm going to start out tonight by giving you all a little bit of a story of my history. So these lives are really designed as a prompt for you to do a weekly meeting to check in with yourself on your finances. So let's start out about 20 plus years ago. In my early 20s, when I graduated from college, I remember I was making less than $40,000. At the time, my family structure was still small. I was dating. We had one child in the household, and we were making ends meet, and we had a pretty decent quality of life. I remember beginning to make way more money than I had previously made. I remember making about $20,000 more in just the space of about 24 months. And you would think, you increase your income by $20,000, you have a lot more expendable income. But that wasn't the case. By my late 20s, I had already purchased a house for $429,000. We had a family was budding and beginning to get bigger. So we needed bigger vehicles. Our children were attending paid schools and daycare. Our expenses began to just explode as our income was exploding. This is often referred to as the Parkinson's law. The Parkinson's law is a law that says your expenses will grow in proportion to your income. And that's exactly what happened to me. I realized I didn't have extra money as my income began to grow. So many of us believe that. If I get a raise, I'll have extra money. If I take on a second job, I'll have extra money. If I work overtime and more hours, I'll have extra money. But really, what happens is we have extra expenses once we have that extra income. Usually, we justify it with the same two sentences: I work hard and I deserve it. And usually, we use those excuses to justify increasing our expenses, thus increasing the cost of our lifestyle, thus consuming all of that extra income that we began to make. So, that's the problem. Just making more money typically won't solve your money problems. And that's when I was exposed at the time. I was a real estate agent to one of my clients, and they taught me one of the greatest lessons I learned about budgeting. The wife was an accountant for the city of San Francisco, the husband was a mechanic. And as I sat down with them to help them refinance one of their five properties, the wife said to me that they created their budget off the husband's income, which was the lower of the two incomes, and they saved all of our income. And as a result, they had five homes, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in retirement accounts. And that for me was an eye opener. And that was the beginning of a framework that I developed called the 10-10-80 budget, a faith based way to align your faith with your finances. So the first 10%, that's tithe, offering, or charitable giving. That reminds you that the income that you're making doesn't belong to you. And ultimately, it belongs to the Lord. And you're being a faithful steward with what He's entrusting to you. By trusting Him and returning the tithe, that signals to your faith and to the Lord that you're committed to increasing His kingdom here on earth. The second 10%, that went directly to savings. So I began now to save some of the money that I was trading my precious time for. That unlocked many of the things that I'm living in today in the future of that situation. The last 80%, we found a way to make our lifestyle fit in that 80% of the net income that I was making. Now, it was hard at first we had to make some really tough decisions. Just like you will be as you sit down weekly, maybe after attending this live and taking a real look at your finances, looking at the money that you spent last month and even as soon as last week, and making decisions about your money for this week, this month, and next month. One of the first things we took out was cable. At the time, our cable was over $200. I think it was $280 a month. Sat down, I calculated that times 12 and realized, wow, that was almost $3,000 a month that I was spending on just TV. And at the time, we made a decision. That was just an expense that we couldn't afford, not to mention the time that we were wasting watching TV. And so we eliminated that out of our budget, along with many other things. And we began to take an approach to really make tough decisions to make sure that we were not spending more than 80% of our net income. So, if you can, take a hard look at your budget. First, dedicate that tithe back to the Lord. Second, pay yourself first before you begin to spend. And then find a way to make all of your expenses fit inside of that last 80% of your net income. As you begin to make these tough decisions, it gets easier and you'll eliminate more and more things from your budget, and your savings rate will begin to increase from that 10%. And in my case, within about 4 or 5 years, it had increased to about 30% of my income just by being disciplined and monitoring my money, tracking it on a weekly, monthly basis, finding out where my dollars were going, and then beginning to automate my accounts. I teach something called the 7 account framework. I try to teach you the 7 accounts that you need in order to put your eggs, as the old people will say, in multiple baskets. And then once your money's broken up and allocated a purpose, then you begin to fund these accounts, and then you automate your expenses coming out of these accounts so that you can get rid of things like overdraft fees and all the negative finance charges that you may be getting based on the debt that you currently have. So these and other resources are available for you in our Minding Our Business Academy. I'll say that again. You can visit us at www.mindingourbusinessacademy. We have plenty of free resources there for you, but what we're building is a community of faith-based stewards who are looking to make a change in the way they steward their finances and align their faith with their finances. So, if I can tell you something to do this week, if I could give you a little bit of homework, it would be first to take some time, even today, carve out about 20 to 30 minutes of, yes, this evening that you have right here, right now. Look at what you spent last week. I like to tell my clients to save receipts for every transaction. I know some people like to use their credit cards, some people are cash people, but saving receipts allows you to keep a record of whatever dollars you've spent, despite however you've spent those dollars via card or cash. Then at the end of the week, you tabulate those receipts and you categorize them into categories: food, entertainment. You can factor in your bills, and then begin to make adjustments based on the behaviors that you're seeing. What you're really trying to expose is your behaviors. So go back, look at those receipts, look at places that you've spent money that you might have forgot that you spent those dollars, and now begin to make adjustments. And here's the key part: make a plan to mitigate those expenses as you enter the next week. So, with that said, this was a great opportunity to go live, have a quick discussion with all of you about how you can begin to steward your finances, how you can leverage something like the 10-10-80 budget to begin to get your finances under control. Again, the first 10% that goes to tithe, offering, or if you're not a Christian or faith-based, charitable giving. The next 10%, that's paying yourself, saving some of those dollars that you've traded your time for and putting them into some sort of high yield savings account. The last and most important step is making sure that your lifestyle and expenses are all less than 80% of your net income, and then making some really tough decisions on a weekly and monthly basis to reduce those expenses, making plans. Maybe it's you eat out less. Maybe you do some meal prep right here on the weekend and get ready for the week so that you're not caught off guard making last minute decisions on what you should eat or places to buy. It's healthier and it'll help your finances tremendously. So, thank you for this time that you took to spend with us. We look forward to going live with you again next Sunday. So, we'll be doing these every single Sunday at 6 p.m. We'll try to stick around for about 20 to 25 minutes. I will give you a lesson as you engage. We'll go to the comments. We'll take some of your questions and scenarios, and we'll see what we can do to serve you. Again, you can connect with us on Facebook. We have our Minding Our Business free community there where we'll offer free resources. There's prayer groups, and it's a way to engage with other like-minded faith-based individuals trying to become better stewards. And if you would like to become a client of ours, visit us at mindingourbusinessacademy.com. Go ahead, sign up, enroll, and you can book some one-on-one time with me where we can begin to dissect your finances. We can create a strategy for your budget. We can create a strategy to pay down your debt and create unique strategies for the goals and the plans that you have to build and steward your wealth. Maybe you want to retire early. Maybe you have children like me that you're putting through college. Maybe it's a large vacation or a wedding or anniversary. Maybe you're trying to buy your first home. All of those are experiences that I've been through that I can help mentor you through and help you become the steward that you want to be. So, in closing, thank you for spending this time with us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Visit us on all of our social media platforms. We put out great faith-based content every single day with money, financial literacy, financial management, and most of all, how to steward these resources, our time, our talents, and our treasure that God has entrusted to us. So go out and mind your own business. Thanks for spending some time with us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.